where both websites are registered by the same person. So that's very interesting. And this is another interesting tool which we don't know, that holdintegrity.com. So what happens, some tools may not work. Like she was talking about Bing, the facial, but Google is good at many things. Yandex is good. Like Bing is also certain areas, like she had shown that wonderful graph. And then in this particular case of twistedtruth.net, Wayback Mission extensively used. I think all of you love that tool, Wayback Mission. They're very fond of it. And namecheck.com, we have, and this is very interesting technique that she taught us today, that how to use asterisk or a star, because related URLs that we don't know. Thank you for that, Alena. And Hoaxy also, that's very interesting. How claims spread online. Hoaxy, that's a very interesting tool come across. And we, for auditing, we are using Follower Wonk and other Follower Me, Follower Wrong. But this followeraudit.com is very promising. Even Twitter.com, you can do stories also. Maybe which politician is having more fake followers or not. That kind of stories you can do from that. Very interesting. And now I hand over mic to her so that the rest of the session. And after that, we'll have Q&A. And we'll call it a day at 5 o'clock. After that, stay awake. Thank you. None of them slept, actually. Very interesting. Thank you. So clap again, and so that.
I don't actually have a ton more left. I have one kind of final exercise, and I do want to kind of reinforce one other thing. These tools are all really great, and it's all right. I think we're okay. I do love playing around with the tools, but there's no substitute for good human reporting. Sometimes you have to do good reporting. The example that I use is when I was in Tunisia teaching the journalists from Libya, a rumor came out that one of the candidates for president had a fake diploma from a Canadian university. And in Libya, you're required to have a college degree in order to run for office. And so a lot of the folks we were training, they said, well, what tool can we use to verify whether or not the diploma is real? And I said to them, you don't use any tool for that. You have to call the registrar of the university and find out if he was ever enrolled in the school. The tools are great, but tools are not a substitute for good, diligent reporting, human-based reporting. So just keep that in mind, that you don't want to depend on the tools as a crutch or as a way to avoid talking to people, because oftentimes the best fact check you can do is by talking to human sources. The last kind of activity that I have is, pull up my little PowerPoint. Also, write this down if you haven't already. You guys may have gone over it, but it's the bit.ly link for Bellingcat's online investigation toolkit. Okay. Okay.
I posted it.
Yeah. It's bit.ly/BCAT tools, and it's great. One of the things that I love about it is it's crowdsourced and then verified by Bellingcat. So tools marked in yellow are the ones most used. So for example, you'll see here image and video verification. You'll see Google Desktop, InVid, WeVerify, SunCalc, Metadata. These are all ones that are most frequently used. It also tells you whether or not they're free, and it'll tell you if there's a guide associated with it. And the tools include verification, social media tools, websites to find other people, maps and satellite-based tools. So some of the ones that we went over today, Google Earth, Google Map, Wikimapia, things like that. Transport tools, I don't use these very often. IP explorers, even ones to help you stay safe online, to protect you from incursions onto your privacy. So if you don't have this already, check it out, play around on the site. It's pretty great. A lot of stuff to help you in your journalism. And it includes some fact checking and OSINT tools as well. So the last kind of activity that I have here is to use the skills that you have learned, and it will require multiple tools. Where exactly am I standing down to the street? There's not too many tools you have to use, but and I airdropped the image to you. Did you share it with them?
Yes, it's on the WhatsApp group.
Okay. And so take 5 or 10 minutes and using some of the tools that I just taught you, tell me exactly where I am. Some of you probably know where it is just from the photo, but I want the exact street. What? Let everyone do it. Let everyone do the activity. But tell me the street. I want the street. We'll take about 5 minutes or so. She's also like so engaged into it. I just see them nodding along with that dog. It's very fulfilling. I almost went to law school. When I didn't want to spend the money at this law school. My best friend at law school is $200,000. It's very expensive, guys. Yep, that was a long time ago. That's 10 years ago. That's when I graduated from undergrad. Most of the internet's just pictures of my dog at this point. It's all it is. My dog is Leo.
Why are you taking so long? Internet problem? Try it on your mobile.
I gave him 5 minutes, it's fine. We'll do a couple more minutes.
The guy is done with the answer. Some problem.
I think always the photo is this and the extent is right and photo.
మాన్యుమెంట్ దగ్గర గూగుల్ ఎర్త్ లోకి చూడు లేకపోతే గూగుల్ మ్యాప్స్ ఇచ్చిన యూజ్ దట్ లిటిల్ బాయ్.
So harsh. Someone said look at the flags, that is right.
When I drop in the flag.
ఇమేజ్ గ్రూప్ లో పెట్టారు కదా, గ్రూప్ లో పెట్టారు ఇమేజ్. ఇది అయిపోయిందా సత్యప్రియ?
In December, and I just brought a sweatshirt. This is fine. I'm so
ఆన్సర్ రెడీ అయినా? ఆన్సర్ అది అసలు ఏ దేశంలో తెలిసిందా? ఓకే. అండ్ వాట్ ఈస్ ద ప్లేస్, నియర్ బై ప్లేస్? స్ట్రీట్ పేరా? కాదు, అక్కడ మీకు ఒక మాన్యుమెంట్ కనపడుతుంది. అదేంటది? బయట దశ ఏంటి?
Are we good?
All of them know it's Paris, and monument తెలియట్లేదా? They also know the monument, but you have to find out those how many streets around it, 6 or 7.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So you have to find out which street. Otherwise, you only half done. 10 streets.
Yeah, there's a ton.
చుట్టుపక్కల చిన్న టెక్నిక్, ఆ పిల్లోని తీసుకెళ్ళి వాడిని అట్టా తిప్పి ఆ ఇమేజెస్ ఉంటాయి అక్కడ జెండాలు చూస్తే అయిపోయా.
You should at least be able to narrow it down to 2 streets based on the position of the monument.
అనుకున్నదాకా ఇంకే పంపించలేదు.
All right. Now it is time for the answer, which is, and I don't speak French, so I don't actually know how to pronounce any of this, but it's Avenue des Champs-Élysées in Paris, France. How do we know? How do we know which side it's on instead of the other? Like, there's obviously the other western side could have been Avenue de la Grande Armée, but we use our tools. So the first thing I did I knew where the photo was, I'm in it, but first thing is I used the Bing visual search. So we upload the photo into our visual search, and immediately Bing identifies exactly where it is. It shows the Arc de Triomphe in the background. And if you're not sure, you can again use the crop feature, and then you'll get a bunch of different hits. Arc de Triomphe, it's a very famous monument in the middle of Paris. But then you have to figure out which street they're on. As someone pointed out, there's actually 10 streets associated with the Arc de Triomphe. It's a circle, so you have diagonal streets. So this is where we're going to use Google Earth. Right off the bat, you can pretty much narrow it down to one of two streets based on the angle of the arc. So it's going to pop up here. Here we are now in France. So right off the bat, you can see it's got to be either one of those two streets, because we're seeing that middle part of the arc. So clearly it's not one of the diagonal angles. And from there, you're going to want to poke around and look at the street view about what direction the cars are going in. This actually is kind of reflectively trickier here because you guys drive on a different side than they do in Paris, which also threw me off. At one point I was wondering, like, does everyone drive on the wrong side of the... Yes, it's just, that's the way it works. So you can look at different areas around and also match different locations in this street view. So here we've gone from Google Street View, and now you are literally on the street with a satellite image. Check which direction the cars are moving on, and check out what things are on the side. So are there buildings that are the same? The flags, things like that. And from there you can cross-reference using digital satellite imagery. And that is broadly how you do it. And you can also just use a Google map right there and compare it to, and there you go. That's the point of that demonstration, is to show that sometimes you use more than one tool at one time. So you used a reverse image search, and then you used your map software. So don't necessarily feel that you're restricted from only using one tool at one time. You can use them in tandem, just like we did with the Twisted Truth part. We used analyzing the code as well as the Internet Archive. So in this case, you use multiple tools as well. That is my last slide. So I appreciate you guys playing our fun game at the end. Yeah. That is all I have. So if there are any questions, I can take those or.
Any questions, sir? If you want, even other trainers are here, such as they are Naresh and also there. I'm here. If you have any questions, sir? Regarding not only tools, techniques, or anything else on the other.
And I'll be back tomorrow as well. Tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about storytelling and audience engagement and how to kind of get eyeballs on your fact checks, because that is the most important part. If no one reads your fact check, doesn't much matter. So deepfakes are pretty challenging. There's a couple of tools for deepfakes, but there's not a ton now. Sometimes the deepfakes look really bad. I can show you this one of Zelensky that, I mean, it's just. Other times them are like doing a little bit of background information. So I saw some deepfakes that were like Kim Jong-un giving a speech in English or Vladimir Putin giving a speech in English. And some of it is just reading, like neither of them speak English, so they're not giving a speech in English. There's not like a ton of tools to verify the deepfakes quite yet. There's some that are listed on here, if I can find them. Yeah. So deepfake detector, this is called Sensity, and it can check the faces, because that's where a lot of the deepfakes will come. It's AI generated face. But right now there's not a ton, and that's kind of why deepfakes are so scary. Doing research right now on it. There's definitely universities that are, but like, you see this deepfake, like that looks fake. It's not a good deepfake. So pay attention to that as well. The interest more tools, but right now there's basically just a couple, and then doing your due diligence.
Audio fact checking.
Audio fact, and it's harder to detect some of the glitches. A lot of that is in the audio. There's people who have kind of specific speech patterns. That was one of the things that they talk about, like with the Tom Cruise deepfake, is not only did they use the AI to replicate the face, but they used the AI to replicate the speech patterns that Tom Cruise has. He has a pretty distinct cadence in speaking. So again, there's not listening for weird glitches in the audio, and seeing also if sometimes deepfake audio will actually take clips from previous speeches. So seeing if you recognize some of the speeches that have been given. But yeah, unfortunately, sometimes tools have to adjust to the misinformation and disinformation technology as it emerges. And the fact-checking community is still learning how to deal with deepfakes. Hopefully they'll work quicker.
Another question, is there any possibility or chance that ISAPians would handle training kind of programs here in southern part of India?
If the IFCN would, I mean, we would like to. It all is about finding funders. Just because we're a nonprofit, so we're not flush with money, so to speak. So we're working with Meta and Google News Initiative to try and Central America and the Caribbean, which there are no IFCN signatories in Central America and the Caribbean, which is pretty wild. So hopefully we'll do more training. We also have kind of a wealth of online, well, I don't know if I'd say a wealth. We do have some online training opportunities as well. And so if you go to, and then even if you're not an IFCN signatory, you can still get onto a lot of the IFCN signatory mailing lists. And so that'll keep you abreast of some of the public trainings that we do as well. But yes, we have, Pointer has several hundred online learning courses. So You can check them out, pointer.org. Some of them are free, so we have a lot of fact-checking and media literacy spotting misinformation, earning trust, things like that. So yeah, check it out. Like I said, a lot of them are free. Like this one, how to spot misinformation online. That's a free course. How to earn trust. That's a free course. Yep. Yeah, I don't think that mic's actually working, so.
Yeah, misinformation, disinformation only for journalism or judicial under law and under Department of Police.
What?
So
Covered under the law. Yes,
legal judiciary can also do debunking.
Legal? What do you mean?
Judiciary?
Oh,
They do
judiciary.
debunking.
Theoretically, I don't know if they do, but they could. Anybody could. I mean, that's a fact checker, and that's why you share your methodology so that anybody can debunk it. I think in general, like conceptually, it's something that we associate with journalists.
Judiciary won't do because they will listen the arguments of the both sides. Like, suppose if you are a lawyer, if you're defending a client, institution or individual, so you can research on your own. Like you have seen a lot of movies, Hollywood movies, where the attorneys who are working for some client will do some kind of investigations. It's useful for lawyers, but judges they won't do because they depend on the material placed in front of them. If you're working for a client, you want to disprove or approve. Like there is one dating app recently is film on Netflix regarding a dating app.
Oh, the Tinder swindler. Yeah.
Not that. This is a romantic movie wherein who hates a dating app. She does a lot of research. It's a very nice movie. Actually, in the sense how she used a lot of techniques and it's also not Tinder. Tinder is like more of a. Is that?